5 o'clock in Pirate Country, and it's time to get pumped up with the P-Man. Hit the door and hit the road. 94.3 The Game is going to get you home, and the P-Man's not holding back.
Yes! Yes! Pirates win! Pirates win!
Bring on the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Holy mackerel! Oh, my goodness!
The flagship station of the ECU Pirates.
All right. Hello again, everybody. Patrick Johnson here. Nice to have you along. We are up and running and ready to launch here. A special 4 o'clock time now through the Super Bowl on Thursdays. Of course, the Logan Zone is coming your way here in just, less than an hour. So Steve Logan will be here for a couple of hours tonight and also on 96.3. Philip the Ref Pilkington is here with us. So the phenomenon of self-shirting is going everywhere. It's all the rage now, Pilk. Do you know what self-shirting in the world of college football is? Have you heard tell of this? Have you heard the term?
I've not heard the term, but when you said it's in the world of college football, is this the jerk-offs who are, after 3 games, decide they don't want to play anymore?
You can play 4 and get a red shirt. I believe that's still the rule. But after 3 games, a lot of folks are saying, nope. So we're going to talk about this UNLV quarterback. We did an interview earlier with our friend Amanda Christovich from Front Office Sports. So we're going to bring that to you in our second half hour today. But it is kind of interesting. By the way, UNLV is going to stick with the Mountain West, it's been reported, despite the opportunity. Because of a signing bonus, they're going to stay. But anyway, the Matt Sluka, the quarterback at UNLV, made the announcement yesterday. Now he is saying that he was promised $100,000. He only got $3,000, and that was being offered to him in moving expenses. He moved from Holy Cross and transferred up from the FCS to the FBS level. And then yesterday, late Michael Allen, who is the former Rose running back who started his career at NC State and transferred to UNLV, has announced that he's going to take the rest of the year off to be able to redshirt and enter into the portal after the season. Allen, I think, has less to do with NIL and just probably playing time because he's the 4th rusher on the UNLV roster. And then there's an offensive lineman from there, USC, actually. What is this kid's name?
I know I did.
It's kind of a unique name, if I'm not mistaken.
Lineman, isn't it?
Oh, is it a defensive lineman?
Let's see.
Well, anyway, it's a lineman, and he has decided he will. Bear Alexander, the defensive lineman.
Bear. I knew he had a funny name.
Yeah. He's taken the shirt, is what his guardian, Tony Jones, apparently text people who had inquired. He has been at 7 different schools since his high school year. And you have people that bounce around the different schools. Look, Jake Garcia was one of them. But you have these people that, and it's, you kind of hit the nail on the head maybe yesterday when we were talking about it, Pilk. It's a cultural thing now. There's no loyalty to the school. There's no loyalty to the program. And I get when money's involved, but when it starts at the high school level, that does create some real, I don't know if we'll say problems, but certainly some things that are interesting.
You know, it kind of stinks that it's become this way.
Ingrained. It's ingrained.
Well,
because, kids bounce around now at the middle and high school levels.
Yeah, and one of the things that I hate about it is you don't develop those relationships with your players. You know, when you go through the blood, sweat, and tears of a football season, you build a special bond with guys. And when you only go through half of an off season and maybe one regular season, you don't have that bond either, which really stinks because I think of the guys that I played high school football with, and, you know, I may go 2 or 3 years without seeing them, but the minute you run into them at the grocery store when you're both home at your parents' house for Christmas, man, it's like no time's passed, and there's a special bond there regardless. And I don't know, man. It's just you don't get that. On top of it's not fair to the program. It's not fair to the fans. Like I said, it's just a different culture that the youth today grew up in than what you and I grew up in, Patrick.
Well, and look, things change. We realize that. I think the UNLV case is a little bit of a special case because, at least with the quarterback, because money was promised, it was not delivered upon. That's a problem.
Yeah.
There's bad actors in that situation. I think there's bad actors in some cases even representing the kids. And, I know Team Boneyard and other NIL collectives are trying to do their best to stay within the framework of the rules. The institutions need to get involved in this, and hopefully they will. And it looks like it's heading in that direction. But
Title IX is really hindering that. That's the issue right now.
It's true. We're going to talk to Amanda Christovich about all of this coming up. We got ECU and UTSA coming up on Saturday at 4 on these airwaves, 94.3 The Game and 107.9 WNCT. 4 o'clock is the kick. We'll be on the air at 1 that day with our Anson Belton Buckle Pirate Game Day Countdown presented by Orthopedics East. Let's do a quick Pirate report for you here. Where do we want to go, Pilk? Do we want the coordinators? Do we want Coach? Let's do Coach Houston. I think we'll save the coordinators' audio for tomorrow. Does that work for you?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Coach Houston saying the players are motivated this week.
Very motivated for this game this weekend. Obviously a challenge with UTSA, one of the top teams in our league. And, conference opener is a big game for us. So just excited about having the opportunity to play this game. Very motivated for this game this weekend.
Yep.
Sorry
absolutely.
about that.
And no, that's all right. And he just wanted to emphasize it. And this is Coach Houston speaking on the fumble by Rajay Harris.
First, it's Conference USA officials, so I don't really have anything that I can send to them. Our footage did not show the shots that we were seeing on the jumbotron the other night. But at the end of the day, and we talked about it, it's we are the ones that hand the ball to the official. Don't let anybody else hand the ball to the official. That's the way you avoid that. Nobody feels worse than Rajay does, and I promise you he's been on it this week because it means a lot to him that he be a guy that helps us win. And he never does anything to hurt us. And so he owns that. But it's on us too. Coaching staff wise, we start every Tuesday practice with ball security. But I think that we gotta continue to just hound them during practice, and the kids have got to be really on it during practice. And even you get tired, you got to be making sure that if you're in traffic, you're locking it up. And so it's a group effort that we gotta make sure we eliminate those situations right there that hurt us.
And the other part of that, Pilk, is when he talked about Conference USA officials. So you can't send the clip into the head of officials because it's officials there, part of the league that they play in, Liberty plays in. The other part of that is, and we've heard Coach Houston talk about this week, but I think it's important to reiterate this. With the American, there's centralized replay. The replays are housed in Dallas, the same place where the Big 12 does their replay centralized. So the AAC is on that big boy level where there's a centralized replay office. That's not the case with Conference USA. They do that on site. So there's a replay official on site. It's the way they used to do the replay reviews. So Pilk, because, if you centralize Conference USA's, the guy would probably be in a back storage closet of a strip mall somewhere in, Slidell, Louisiana or something. I don't know. But, so that's part of it too. And you also don't know what angles they're working with on replay. That's the big thing about some of the replay for when it's non-centralized or an ESPN Plus broadcast or even these Olympic sports broadcasts. You don't know what angles they have access to. And even if they have all the cameras theoretically, sometimes the feed doesn't work. It's an inexact, imperfect situation with that. I've seen it a lot of times calling sports like volleyball and baseball and softball. They may not have the same replay that we're looking at on television for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's unfortunate it's that way because I thought Rajay's knee was down. The announcer kept talking about his elbow, which those were some homer announcers for Liberty for sure. But
Well, it was
I thought the right knee was
Liberty
down.
broadcast.
Yeah,
it was a Liberty broadcast. I mean, everybody there gets a check from Liberty University.
Yeah, but you're not that much of a homer when you call ECU basketball.
Well, I'm a professional.
From a neutral, yeah.
Well, I'm a professional. When asked if Jake Garcia needs to take something off the ball sometimes, here is Coach Houston, who was posed that query.
Well, I mean, I think it depends on the situation. Some of the tight windows he puts it in there. That I mean, you can't take anything off of it. I've seen that before where a quarterback does not have the arm strength and he can't fit it in those windows and he tries to, and it's a pick. Certainly there are some passes that are touch passes and some passes that you gotta put it on there. And so it's just, continuing for him to, get on the same page with the receivers and feel better with the receivers. But, those the other night, like that fourth down deal, it's a tight window right there. He has to put it on the receiver. If he doesn't, they're going to break it up or they're going to pick it. So, the one on the pick, that was a touch pass, right over the shoulder, right where it should be. So it just depends on the pass.
Did you ask that or did somebody else ask that, Bill?
Somebody else did. I just can't remember who.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to figure, are they was there a specific pass that they asked about? Because I can't think of, I think Coach Houston's spot on there. That's a situational thing. It just doesn't seem like a general. Anyway, for another time. Let's hit a break. When we come back, high school football, a slew of games have been moved to tonight, especially those being played in Pitt County. We'll tell you about our schedule, but we'll also tell you about, or hear from, Ron Cook. What a job he's done at Farmville Central. They're undefeated, and they will host rival Aiden Grifton tonight. So the coach of the Jags, Ron Cook, on the other side here on the PJ Show.
Have you noticed he's in his own little happy hour? We're back to the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
This is the happy hour program.
Here's the P-Man.
Those Friday night football games, some of them moved to Thursday, including the rivalry matchup between Farmville Central and Aiden Grifton. And the coach of the Jaguars is Ron Cook, a favorite of ours here on 94.3 The Game's Patrick Johnson Show. Coach, thank you for taking a few minutes with us, and congratulations to a tremendous start that your team is off to.
Thank you, Patrick. I really appreciate it.
Coach, when you get a game moved up, and there was a couple days notice on this, where does it sort of create problems or create a different routine?
It's just, it cuts our routine short. It doesn't create a different routine for us. With most coaches and athletes, but especially I think more so football coaches, we kind of really strict in as far as, I don't want to say superstitious, but lean on the lines and how you do things on a week-to-week basis, especially when you're winning. But for me, I always we're not going to change how we do our Wednesday practice, but it will be shortened. If that makes sense. So there's a change to it, but it's not a change into how we do our things on Wednesday. And unfortunately, we're not able to do our Thursday practices. Where you kind of just basically dress rehearsal for the game and address special situations. But I got to show last week that what we've done, what we do on our Thursday practices, this year and for the years that the guys or seniors have been here done, that showed that it has caught on to them and where they've proven it to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. So.
We're talking to Coach Ron Cook at Farmville Central. So, Coach, a lot of people looked at it and said, Farmville's off to a nice start, but look, they've not knocked off anybody. All you did last week was go on the road and beat the EPC preseason favorites. So I think that was a little bit of a wake-up call for the doubters.
Absolutely. And, I know, I'm a sports fan also. And I played, and I told our guys, I know, we can't control, like when we scheduled the team in our account, we didn't know how good or bad they would be. We didn't know what their record would be when we played them. But we did, like I told her, we did what we were supposed to do. And, took care. We can't control what they do or who they beat on their side. We control what we do and how we play. And we took care of business those games. But I told our guys that we haven't beaten a team really in record until we got to Wilson Prep, which is a pretty good team, especially on the 1A level. And then once we got in the conference, we knew what it was. We're picked to finish fourth in the conference. So,
Coach, lots to talk about here with you. I think you've done a fantastic job at Farmville and turning it around.
Thank you.
Give us a little bit of just how tough of a sell it was, and I know you're not to where you want to be yet as far as the overall goal for the program, but it seems like when you took over, it wasn't real cool to be a Farmville football player.
No, and I say the same thing I told everybody when they asked me about, when I took it. I saw the potential when I met with Coach Will on my interview, and he took me around the facility. I saw the potential in the facilities. I saw film. I saw the potential in the athletes they have here, and that's the main reason I took the job because I knew it was just it was a diamond in the rough, a sleeping giant, if you will, that just needed to be guided in the right direction. I've been fortunate to have a great staff. We probably have, and I talk to my wife about this all the time, we probably have the smallest coaching staff in high school football, if not at least 2A.
Yeah.
I've only got 4 assistants, and any given Friday, Thursday night, you look across from our sideline, I guarantee you there's going to be twice as many coaches as what you see on Farmville's side. But, those guys have done a great job in being efficient in what I asked them to do and leading our players and our JV program the way they need to be, and just being, keeping practice lively and being efficient in practice, getting things done, and it's shown, on the field.
So you got Brian Laney, Corey Roberts, Justin Van Wiegen, and Mike Adams. So let's Wiegen. Okay, let's give those guys a shout out though, because that's
yes, sir, absolutely. And only 2 of those guys are from previous staff that was here when I got hired. Coach Laney came with me from Pamlico, and Coach Adams just came on board after he got hired to teach.
Pretty good, and it's great the great job they've done. When you knocked off Southwest, your running back Elijah Abel gave you a huge day.
Yes, sir.
He's had quite a year. The senior has. Talk a little bit about his performance in that game and what he's done on the ground for you.
Well, we knew Elijah was going to be special since his sophomore year, which is actually first year he came out. He was another kid walking the hallways that didn't play his freshman year. He came out his sophomore year, and our current starting quarterback, B.J. Gardner, he was going to be starting quarterback on JV his freshman year. He broke his collarbone first game, and we had no quarterback. We had to put Elijah back there to carry the load, and he did really well there. He showed a lot of great potential. We had a bunch of big runs at quarterback, running the option, and we saw that he was fast. Fast forward to now, after he started his junior year at running back, he's just been great in the weight room, building himself up. He's one of the strongest guys on the team, pound for pound for his size. And it shows him, if anybody's at the game, it shows how he finishes runs. He doesn't go down on the first contact. And he actually had one touchdown where he drug the pile to the end zone. So he's been really good for us. I think another thing is great to point out for him is he's really been focusing on, and which we do for the whole team as far as ball security, but he's really has taken it personal upon himself to focus on his ball security. He's not had one ball on the ground in any carry that he's had this season, which was a really problem for him last season. By this time, he probably had 3 or 4 fumbles.
Coach, I know you've been really
he's just been really good.
Coach, I know you've been really impressed with the defense so far.
Yes, a defense I knew to be exceed expectations. It's just it starts up front. Our those guys up front are all veterans. But we have about a 5-man rotation, and we got some good guys that sub in too. But the starting 4 are all seniors. They've been playing together for the last 2 or 3 years, and they've just doing a great job creating new line of scrimmage every week and really getting after offensive lines that we play against. I think Southwest had one of the best offensive lines we played against so far, and they did a really good job of getting the backfield and creating a new line of scrimmage against them. And then overall, we just playing really good team defense. 11 guys running to the ball, getting make sure we get tackles, getting good hits on backs, make sure we're doing well in coverage. And again, starts up front. Our guys are doing really well, getting pressure on the quarterback, and which Southwest has a really good one in that sophomore. And we kept them busy throughout the night. So.
A game moved up because of Hurricane Helene, and it'll be played tonight at Farmville. The 5-0 Jags against the 1-3 Aiden Grifton Chargers. I'll get into that in a little bit, the rivalry aspect of that, Coach. But, not only have you kind of brought the football side of things in, but when you arrived on the scene, you've started a lot of team building and opportunities for guys to grow together and that sort of thing. For those, because our audience grows here leaps and bounds, we got new listeners. Give me a little bit, or tell those folks, if you would, about just some of the things you've done to, give these young men some support and give these young men a place where they can go and feel like they have ownership of something.
Oh, well, one of the things we do, we try to reward effort, and positive reinforcement for, when you do things well in school, off the field. I think one of the biggest things we do is attend the FCA camp. Since my second season, my first year, I was unable to because that was my first summer. I just got here. But we've been at FCA camp, it's Fellowship for Christian Athletes, every season. That's a big, not just for 7-on-7, that's a big time to spend, away from Farmville, away from the outside noise. And it's about two nights and one day we spend together there, overnight camp, doing 7-on-7 and, at FCA camp and worship. So that's one of the things that's big in team building and building time with each other. Another thing is just over the summer, our summer workouts Monday through Thursday. We're here at 7:45 a.m. We get good, hard workouts in running, lifting, and competition. We're done by 10:30. But we also reward guys for that. I've started since I've been here. Jaguar Summer Olympics, competition, and it's just every week throughout the summer. There's 4 events that they compete and guys compete in, and that and you get points for first, second, third place. And at the end of the summer, there's a champion for each position group, and then their name goes on a plaque that's up in our weight room right now. So guys always look forward to that. There's just some of the things, like I said, we just continue to work together with and doing work, with the guys. So another thing is actually one of the biggest things I'm always proud of everywhere I've been and with these guys. We do emphasize still being a student athlete first. And if you come to our games, you may see the Paul stickers in the back. Those are award stickers for what they do in games. But on the front of their helmets, you'll see some guys with stars on their helmets. Actually, more guys this year with stars on their helmets. And the stars represent having grades of 80 and above on tests, quizzes, or major projects in school. So that's another thing we do to, again, promote, being a student athlete, doing what you're supposed to do in the school and, being focused on that. Because I tell these guys all the time also, this 99% of them, 98, 99% of them are not going to play football after high school. So they need to focus on what they want to do, whether it doesn't have to be college, but whether it's college or not, they need to focus on still getting an education and being able to have a career, after high school. So that's the other thing we talk about with these guys and focus on, daily.
Can't take that education away from you once you get it, can you, Coach?
No, sir, not at all. And it's again, we try to emphasize those guys a lot and try to foster that and let them know that I always, especially let my guys know that I'm, they can always call. I've had players use me for recommendations later after they graduate for jobs and things like that. So It's just also building that relationship with them to make sure they know, they're not just, if they play for me, I'm not just here for them to help me win games. I'm here to help them in life because the coaches I've had have done the same for me. I'm not old, but it seems like getting old sometimes. I've had a couple weddings I've been invited to by players already. So.
Oh, that means you're getting old, Coach. I hate to break it to you. So,
yeah,
Coach.
But that's also a special thing when they think of you, that way to come, be able to invite to a life event like that. So.
Coach Ron Cook is with us here. All right, Aiden Grifton. Let's get into the team a little bit. They're coming off a very impressive win against West Craven in overtime. They played some tough opponents early on, and really broke through last week. What did you see on film that maybe they were doing a little differently, that they were not doing as successfully perhaps the first few games of the season?
Well, they play hard, and always knew. I knew when I've known Coach Cornwell for several years now, probably closer to a decade, half a decade. But once he went back, we knew he was going back. We knew they were going to be a much better coach team. We knew that his team was going to play hard for 4 quarters, get after you. So they did that with West Craven. They just never gave up. They really got after their quarterback, who's the best player on the team. I think they sacked him 4 or 5 times, but maybe he threw 4 interceptions. They just play really hard. They have they have a good running back. They have best tight end in our league, probably on this side of the state, at least in the Eastern region. And they again, it's a great win for them. We expect them. Like we told our guys, we had a good win, but that's probably even a little bit bigger for them, because I don't think as much as I think nobody probably expected us to win at Southwest. I'm probably sure they had even less chance of anybody believing that they're going to beat West Craven at West Craven. So it's going to be some really good, I think, game for us.
Coach, how much do you play up, if any at all, the rivalry aspect of this game?
I don't think too much. They know, Aiden's not far. It's in county. We got, kids that may live, in near the neighborhood, and some that may live in our neighborhood. So I don't think as much we have to, as far as emphasize, as far as the rivalry side. They know what's at stake, and they know again that they're going to come here. They're going to come here ready to play, and they're going to play hard for 4 quarters. You
guys have done a fantastic job. Good luck tonight against Aiden. What'll be some of the keys or things you'll emphasize with your team before the game?
We have to take care of the football. We have to play our game, make sure that we are disciplined in every aspect of the game, because, again, we know we're playing against a well-coached team. So we have to do the little things better than them. And we have to do that for 4 quarters, playing fast, physical, and finish every play, every rep, and every quarter.
Hey, Coach, thanks for the time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Patrick. I really appreciate you and all you do. Thank you.
Jaguars had held 4 in a row under 20 before last week. They'll host Aiden Grifton tonight. On our airwaves here on 94.3 The Game, it's Washington at West Craven. J.H. Rose hosting undefeated South Central on 102.7. Conley will host Northside Jacksonville tonight. North Pitt travels to West Carteret in a non-conference game. Tomorrow, Lawrence Academy at JP2, an 8-man football, and that is because JP2's got that synthetic field. Patrick Johnson Show continues on here on a Thursday. Top of the hour, it's the Logan Zone. Amanda Christovich when we come back here on 94.3 The Game.
Download the new IBX Media app now and get the show for your ears and eyes.
Doesn't it look great on me?
This is the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
All right, Patrick Johnson Show today. Don't forget Logan Zone coming up at 5 o'clock. We're on in the 4-hour every Thursday through the Super Bowl. Here on 94.3 The Game, 5 o'clock, Monday through Wednesdays and Fridays. As we welcome back a friend of the show, Amanda Christovich with Front Office Sports joins us here. We got UTSA and ECU this weekend. 1 o'clock coverage here on 94.3 The Game and the IBX Media app. So when we bring up UTSA, we think about what happened this week, and that was the big, announcement among members of the American and the league office that, hey, we're staying and we're going to press forward. So as we bring Amanda in here this afternoon, Amanda, when you look at this, was this out of left field? Were you kind of expecting this? What are you kind of picking up from people like yourself and others that follow all of this realignment?
Well, I was definitely expecting some sort of, movement or statement of non-movement, right, from several schools in the AAC who had been rumored to, be having conversations with the Pac-12. I think that the timing of it ended up sort of, it was funny because it ended up being like the smallest of the 3 big pieces of breaking news that I believe I covered on Monday. You know what I mean? When it happened, it was like, oh wow, like the American is retaining all its members and it's back to the drawing board for the Pac-12, and the Mountain West better buckle up because that's who, those are the schools that the Pac-12 is going to be calling next. So, I wasn't, I was anticipating something. The other thing I think I will say that surprised me, frankly, is like, it's not often that schools decide not to jump ship in this current climate. And especially conferences that have new commissioners that haven't had a chance to sort of prove really much of anything yet. But clearly, AAC Commissioner Tim Pernetti has, some tricks up his sleeve. And the fact that he was able to convince all of his members with the ideas that he has, with what he's working on to stay, is very notable and very rare.
I think also a $27.5 million exit fee probably helped. That probably, it's a lot of money in the world of the AAC. With all that said, we've theorized on here, because Memphis is a conference, part of our conference brethren at East Carolina, that we've theorized on here, well, FedEx could write him a check in large part if they really, really wanted to do that. But what would you be leaving for at this point?
Right. I mean, and I think that's the point, right? What theoretically you would leave for to go to the Pac-12 would be, more media rights dollars and ultimately chasing, the elusive power conference status, which, is usually what teams who are trying to jump from an AAC or Mountain West are looking for. But as has been made clear by multiple reports, and I can certainly attest that I believe this is also the case, the Pac-12 isn't going to get power conference status. Will they get maybe a couple more $1 million a year in their media rights contract like they said they would versus, schools in the AAC? Maybe. But as you said, that's not going to cover the exit fees. And
well, it wouldn't cover your travel if you're in Tampa.
It would cover about 3.5 dinners here in New York City. So there's that. Not speaking, I'm not complaining or anything.
Right.
I love where I live. And, but look, I think that and then you add the travel costs of being in the Pac-12.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, look, the AAC is pretty sprawling too, but, it's a factor. I don't know that I think they realize, we're not going to get power conference status in this new Pac-12, so we might as well just stay where we are. And maybe if the ACC disappears in a year because of the lawsuits and all that, maybe it's worth waiting for that next round to make a move.
Amanda Christovich with Front Office Sports joins us here. Of course, there's now been the move where you're looking at the ACC seems to be willing to go to the bargaining table to do, that kind of unequal rev share or weighted rev share with Florida State and Clemson, who, Florida State right now, if we're basing it on football performance, they'd be giving money back. Right.
Well, and right. And let me just say, we joke about this, but like, if you think that the ACC's lawyers will not be bringing up on the record in court documents, in potentially, hearings, FSU's lack of prowess on the field, let's put it that way, to put it nicely, you're mistaken. That's absolutely something that I'm expecting to be brought up in court.
Yeah.
On that story, it was like that was last week. That seems like 3 years ago to me now. But I do remember doing a little bit of reporting on that. I'm not sure that how much the ACC is willing to go to the bargaining table with that, because this was a proposal that was put on the table by FSU and Clemson. So just because I ask for $1 million doesn't mean that Front Office Sports is going to give it to me. It doesn't mean they're going to think about giving it to me. I can say on the Patrick Johnson show,
right.
like, hey,
that'll be another. You'll be like Florida State football. You'll have to give money back if you tell them you're on the Patrick Johnson show. So.
Well, hopefully not. But no. But it's like, essentially what it sounded like to me is if like I came on your show and I said, breaking news, Amanda Christovich is proposing that Front Office Sports pay her $1 million.
I'd back it. Pilker,
Doesn't
we're for
mean
that, aren't we?
anything.
She's got to
Yeah.
eat those meals in New York. So
She's
I
got to
mean,
eat the meals in
right.
crazy high-priced New York, and then on top of it, hey, she's doing a heck of a job because all this conference realignment is
Right.
it's a lot harder to keep up with.
I
than just
support
games.
this. I vote yes on this $1 million.
Well, thank
deal.
you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the vote of confidence that it doesn't seem like FSU is getting from you, but at least I'm getting it. But that's essentially what it sounded like to me, is
Yeah.
my point.
Okay.
It didn't really sound like the ACC was willing to make much of a move in that direction.
All right. Last time we had you on, I sort of botched these lawsuits against involving the House. So kind of,
I don't think so.
House is off. Well, it's sucking up to the host will get you everywhere. Now, explain the House situation, where it is now, and what are the true things kind of swirling around it that make it a complicated issue at this point.
So here's where we are with the House settlement. We are awaiting, and the deadline, I believe, is the end of the day, Thursday, September 26th. And by the end of the day, I mean end of day Pacific time. We're waiting for the lawyers on both sides to submit some sort of document to say whether or not they've been able to come up with a response and amendments to Judge Wilkins' requests and complaints and concerns about the settlement that they filed in July. Her biggest issue is with this NIL collective restriction clearinghouse thing, basically suggesting, she's saying why would we allow a system where a third party could prohibit athletes from doing NIL deals? Is that an antitrust violation? Is it also just going to be taking away deals that athletes are already getting? That's usually not popular. That's what she said. So we're waiting to see. And I think if you want the TLDR, it's like we're waiting to see if there is going to be a settlement, because the NCAA's lawyer basically said, I'm not sure my client is going to sign on to any settlement if we don't get this control over NIL collectives in it. So we're going to find that out. I would say by the time you wake up Friday morning, we'll have more clarity on that.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that, and we will see then. That's the latest there. Amanda Christovich is with us, Front Office Sports. The big story from Wednesday, the quarterback at UNLV, Matthew Sluka, Holy Cross transfer, announcing that he is not going to play the rest of the season because of unfulfilled commitments. In other words, you get 4 games you could play and you could take the medical redshirt. That seems to be what he's doing there. Now, there's been some reporting out there, some word out there that he was offered a 6-figure deal and has gotten just a mere fraction of that. I mean, only a single percentage of that, a low single percentage of that. I see it from both sides. I understand you're letting the team down part of it, but I mean, this kind of is a business. Well, not kind of. It is a business now. Now that we're paying players NIL, and this guy's decided, even though they're rolling in 3-0, whoever committed the $100,000 to him, they've not come through with what they said they were going to come through with. And I think that's the big thing with this NIL that's going to lead to it having some things, because I'm sure tons of bad actors out there in the collective world, and this just I don't know that. Is this just kind of a shady deal gone, or a deal with a shady entity gone bad? Is there a reason they've not paid him the money? I mean, what are you hearing on all this of probably what I'm hearing? There's a camp that says he should, play out his commitment. There's a camp that totally gets the fact that if you're not going to pay the player after making a deal, player can walk. But I mean, that also cuts both ways.
Right. I mean, look, a lot of the reporting from other outlets has suggested that the 6-figure deal was a verbal deal. It was a verbal commitment. Mm-hmm. As many sports lawyers have pointed out, that's a good question for the bar exam about whether or not that's legally enforceable. In some places it is. In some cases it is my understanding. In some cases it isn't. So I think that is an important detail. But the soapbox that I want to get on about this whole story is, let's zoom out a little bit and let's say there was a bad actor, okay? Whether it be the collective that didn't fulfill a commitment, whether it be the agent who, folks I saw on Twitter, I cannot verify this. I'd have to look into it myself, but it's like, was the agent licensed in Nevada, right?
Right, yeah.
To do this deal. Whether there is a bad actor on any side, I'm not really, let's just say there is. This is not a rare situation. And my question is, why has the NCAA gone to court multiple times, including in the House settlement, which we just talked about, to police the amount of money athletes can earn and not to use its enforcement power to protect those athletes instead from these bad actors? The NCAA puts a lot of money and resources towards enforcing its rules. And its rules are there for the benefit of the schools. The NCAA works for the schools. Even though the NCAA says in its, nice little press releases that it works for the athletes, it doesn't work for the athletes, because if it did, then all of the enforcement mechanisms would be going towards protecting players from, agents who are unverified or who should not be working in that space. It should go towards protecting athletes from, people who make promises that they don't keep. It should even, I would argue, the pay for play inducement prohibition could have created the scenario too, because you don't sign a contract because you're worried that the NCAA is going to catch wind of it and get you in trouble, right? And say, oh, you signed a recruiting inducement because you signed a contract before committing that said you were going to get $100,000 from the collective. That's could have been why it was a verbal agreement. Whereas if that rule wasn't in place, there would have been a contract, and this athlete may have had more protection.
It just comes down to the NCAA has been so feckless and reactionary on all this. Instead of putting, people say guardrails. I mean, this is another guardrail too. I mean, if you're a collective and you've committed, there has to be some penalty if you don't live up to the. But I mean, that's where it cuts both. I mean, I could see if they were over 3 and he wasn't performing and had 15 interceptions and no touchdown. But I mean, he's playing pretty well. So for him to make this decision but I mean, if we're talking about the empowerment of players, this is part of the deal. And there's a lot of people that don't like that. And I understand the issue too of there's a side that the guy's abandoning his team. But I mean, he left Holy Cross clearly because it was a business decision. So I think you just hit it spot on and nail on the head there. So great stuff. Really great stuff. Anything else you want to talk about before we go that's kind of standing out to you here? Anything?
How much time do you have? No, I just my one other comment on the UNLV situation is just like, when we talk about guardrails, when we talk about the NCAA's guardrails, the NCAA's rules, the NCAA wants to implement this rule, that rule. The guardrails are to protect what?
Themselves.
Nobody asks that question.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, that's a great question. I mean, they've got a bunch of ex-lawyers.
Guardrails for the athletes.
Right. They've got a bunch of ex-lawyers sitting up there in Indianapolis and got people, men and women, making big salaries. That's all they're worried about. That's why everything's reactionary. There's no leadership position.
The guardrails are to protect amateurism. They're to protect the business model. Yeah. If the guardrails were to protect the athletes, which, by the way, was what the NCAA was created to do 100 years ago. It was created to, stop football players from dying on the field in 1908. Okay, we've strayed a long way from that because now the NCAA is defending its concussion protocols in court, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I won't even get into that. They're not protecting the players. They're protecting their business model. There are no guardrails for the players. There are guardrails for the business model. There is an agent registry that the NCAA has put up. It is not even a required registry. It's a suggestion.
Yeah.
The NCAA is going to court to enforce compensation limits, but they're not willing to go to court to enforce, an NIL agent, verification process. Come on. I'll leave you with that.
All right. Amanda Christovich, Front Office Sports, thanks. We'll talk to you again soon, in a few weeks maybe, because there's always something to talk about. Thanks, and Pilk will Pilk, let's get her a Bennigan's card or something. Try to come up with some kind of restaurant card we can get her up there, Pilk, and so she can have some.
It's all good. We've got a Trader Joe's. They've got great Indian food. I should sign an NIL deal with Trader Joe's. Honestly, I'm a big fan.
You'd be fine. They're actually putting one here in Greenville. It's the talk of the town. It literally is. So, all right.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great.
Thank you. Well, having lived up in Raleigh, no, it's suburban hand-to-hand combat. If you go to Costco's and Trader Joe's on a Sunday, it's not for the faint of heart. Trust me, it is not for the faint of heart. All right, thank you, Amanda. Great to talk to you. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Coming up tomorrow, it is Brett Friedlander plus Coach Steve Logan joining us. Speaking of Coach, he'll be on in a few minutes. It's the Logan Zone here on 94.3 The Game. Don't forget Washington football tonight at West Craven after the Logan Zone, and then Rose on 102.7 tonight against South Central. Catch you tomorrow in the morning on Talk of the Town for Open Line Friday, and then back here for the Get You to the Weekend edition of the PJ Show at 5 o'clock.